Hey all, I've got a few interesting stories to share with you later in this late this evening, but I had some things to work out with my computer and talking to my son, and things are going better now. So the first thing I wanted to bring up was this congregation of the Arabs that came together to discuss the Palestinian issue. And I'm just going to play a little bit of it so you can hear what they had to say.
Of all ambassadors is to endorse the content of what was read by my brother Tariq, and we are strongly united behind the ceasefire to make it permanent, to spread to not only the Gaza Strip but also in the West Bank against the aggression there, and for the Israeli forces to leave the Gaza Strip and to leave the occupied West Bank, beginning with the northern part of the West Bank, and the full implementation of all provisions of the agreement through the three stages. In addition to that, we are united behind the implementation of Resolution 2735. It was adopted by the Security Council. No one voted against it. We want to see the implementation of that resolution as well. We had a large Arab delegation that met last week with the President of the Security Council. We conveyed this sentiment along with our rejection to the ethnic cleansing and forced transfer of the Palestinian people outside their homeland, especially those from the Gaza Strip. And we are very grateful for the Chinese ambassador who conveyed the content of our meeting, including we extended an invitation to the Security Council to come and visit the land of the State of Palestine, including the Gaza Strip. We also had yesterday a meeting of all the Arab ambassadors with all of the European Union ambassadors in their offices. It was a very powerful meeting. It was a very constructive meeting, and we converged our positions on many important issues, including the ceasefire, the implementation of the stages, and the implementation of 2735, and honoring and respecting international law, and also to oppose the violation of provisions of international law as it relates to the crime against humanity of forced transfer. We believe that such strong messages from key components of the international community, along with the Secretary General, who made it crystal clear that he opposes ethnic cleansing as it relates to the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. So therefore, we will continue our efforts here at the United Nations, with the Security Council, with the General Assembly, with the Secretary General and all components of the international community, not to allow further crimes to be inflicted upon the Palestinian people. What we need is to open doors for peace. What we need is a political horizon. What we need is to put an end to this illegal occupation as soon as possible, as has been articulated by the International Court of Justice, and as it has been legislated by the General Assembly, that this illegal occupation to be terminated within 1 year. We are working very hard with all partners in many things, including on the global alliance, on the two-state solution, and for the practical steps to convene an international conference as it was asked for by the General Assembly in June under the co-chairmanship of Saudi Arabia and France. This conference is not going to be an ordinary conference where we meet and give statements and issue a declaration. we are in the beginning stages of asking countries to declare commitments of what exactly they will do in order to contribute to putting an end to this illegal occupation. So by the time we meet in June, we will have the summation of all these practical commitments, including supporting the government of the State of Palestine, strengthening it, allowing it to be able to shoulder its responsibility vis-à-vis the Palestinian people. It means that to take practical steps against the illegal settlements and settlers. It means not to send weapons to kill the Palestinians. It means many other things, including for some countries that have not recognized the State of Palestine to do so, and it means for the Security Council to give a recommendation for the admission of the State of Palestine to full membership. These are but samples of the commitments that we expect from all member states, from political groups and regional groups, so that this time all of us will be working for the implementation of what the ICJ told us to do when they said in the General Assembly, adopt the modalities for putting an end to this illegal occupation as quickly as possible.
This is wonderful to hear. And the reason why I think it's wonderful, the reason why I say that, is because I don't think I've seen a time, perhaps ever, but at least in any of my adult life or when I started to pay attention to the news that I remember, have I ever seen all of the Arab countries unite on this to help the Palestinian people, because I have not seen anybody help the Palestinians. The only exception has been lately, which was Yemen, the Houthis, and Hamas. They were there all alone in the middle of all these huge Arab states. And a lot of these Arab states, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, have a lot of money, because they have a lot of oil. So I really appreciate that they're coming together. And it's just funny because it just makes me think, okay, what Trump did was to encourage them through the way he spoke in his bombastic way. But in a way, I think it was, he actually gave them a nudge to do something for their own people. So if you want to watch the rest, or you want to watch the full, it's right there at at We Love Africa, that YouTube's channel, and it's called Arab Group Shocks the World. Palestinians won't leave Gaza no matter what. You can listen to the rest there. And I'm just really happy to see that they're getting a backbone on this. They're not going to allow this to continue. They're trying to find a resolution to this. That's great. Another thing I'm going to share is, I told you about Mahmoud OD channel, a YouTube channel that I referenced in my last video. I read his video transcript. Here I'm going to play just one part of his portion, which is regarding what it says in that particular point right here. Hold on, I'm trying to shrink myself down. This we're gonna see what he has to say in this last portion about He did talk about they are going to continue the ceasefire to the best content, as best as it can be. I think Israel has done an about face. They've changed. They aren't going to continue violating it. As far as they are going to agree to prisoner swaps tomorrow. So this is really great. And he said the instrumental countries that did that worked that out and forced Israel to do this, and it was Qatar and Egypt. So here's what he has to say on this last portion, which is basically what he says in the... and he also credited the Russians for helping this continue on with some peace and swapping of the hostages. Okay, here he is. He's going to talk about it here for you.
Karmi Gilon, he was the previous head of the Israeli Shabak. This man, he had an interview during which he spoke about Muhammad al-Dayf. Muhammad al-Dayf, the commander-in-chief of Al-Qassam brigades, who was martyred and whose the declaration of his martyrdom was published recently by Al-Qassam brigades. He said that I need to speak and be careful with my words. Be careful with my words, but my appreciation for Muhammad al-Dayf grew deeper to a level of somewhat an admiration. I want to kill him, he wants to kill me, but he's a very deserving enemy. He's on an elite level. I wish we had someone like him in our elite forces. Imagine that, a previous head of the Shabak making this confession about the arch enemy of Israel. Israel tried to assassinate him over 7 times since the late 80s, early 90s, and he's talking about him at that level. This is showing that many of those, and this statement, by the way, is not something abnormal. The previous Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, he once stated that if he were born in Gaza, he would join one of the resistance movement. Other leaders in the Israeli security and military establishment said similar things too. If I was living under occupation, I would join one of the resistance movements against Israel to protect my country. But this, you're talking about an outright admiration. And if anything, it's proving that the people who are running the show, and these senior figures in Israel, many of them know their wrongdoings to a very large extent. And that's why that appreciation happens, because you know someone is fighting for what's right. Otherwise, why on earth would you make such a statement? And this man, he's been highly critical of Benjamin Netanyahu as well, a trend that's increasing lately. The streets are full of people applying pressure on him, and clearly that pressure is also adding to Netanyahu's list of pressure points to continue with the ceasefire agreement.
Well, I thought that was quite fascinating that former officials, whatever, of Israeli government were saying that they admired the Hamas leaders here, commander-in-chief, because they've tried to assassinate him so many times and they haven't been able to achieve that. And that he obviously has a lot of strength and intelligence, apparently, to be able to evade that and carry out what he's been doing. It's basically what this Israeli former Israeli official, government official, was saying, and I just found that very very interesting. So The next thing I'm going to share is just a short part I'm going to read off of this, and then another part I'm going to read of another story. But this one is, I'm going to move myself out of the way again. This one is drone strikes Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine. Russia says not to blame. Now, I actually heard this story this morning, and immediately Zelensky came out and said, "Oh, it was Russia." And I'm thinking, yeah, how many times have we heard this? Like the Nord Stream pipeline. Russia's gonna blow up its own pipeline. That was gonna give energy to Germany and others in Europe, perhaps. The point was that it was made, and it was a long effort to make that. And it made no sense that they would do that. Absolutely no sense. And it was ridiculous that people would actually believe that. I mean, come on. So now it's the same thing with this. And I'm just going to read a little bit of the first couple paragraphs. A Russian drone with a high explosive warhead has hit the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Kiev region. Now, you'll notice it says it's a Russian drone, Ukraine says, amid warnings by the military that Russia launched 133 unmanned vehicles against the country. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that the drone strikes significantly damaged the protective containment shelter and started a fire, which has been put out. And this is the line from the Kremlin. It says that Russia does not hit nuclear sites, which is true. They're always trying to protect nuclear sites. They always go around nuclear sites. They don't want, during the whole war, they weren't doing that. So, thankfully, there's nothing has been released, radiation or anything. It didn't hit those in the plant. Thank God. That's fine. But I just thought that was another interesting story. I mean, Zelensky has gotten really desperate, especially after the smackdown that he got from Trump and J.D. Vance, basically. Pete Hegseth, and basically Trump and his administration that's running around doing these talks. The other thing I wanted to share, which I just saw this, that I thought was quite interesting. Well, we'll see if this if this happens or not. I do think that I do agree with Colonel McGregor that we should get we should close down those bases in Europe. We should definitely close it in Okinawa, because the Japanese in Okinawa have wanted us out for decades. And then in Korea, you just gotta let that stuff go. The Koreans can figure out what they wanted to reunite, so just let them figure that out. These are not our issues. We need to stop policing the world. How many years, how many decades have people said that? Well, here it is. Now this says U.S. could announce mass withdrawal of troops from Europe, says a diplomat. Vice President J.D. Vance could make such an announcement during the ongoing Munich Security Conference, the event's head suggested. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance could soon, as we said, as suggested, the Munich Security Conference. Okay, so Christoph Husgen. Vance is attending the event through Sunday and has already criticized European leaders in his address, stating it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. During an interview with German radio, Husgen claimed he believes that today the American vice president will announce that a large part of the American troops will be withdrawn from Europe. Of course, I don't think that happened that day, but we'll see. The man's comments follow recent media reports that U.S. President Donald Trump plans to cut the U.S. troop presence in Europe by about 20%, or 20,000 troops, as part of a review of Washington's commitment to protecting Europe. This week, the Trump administration has signaled a significant policy shift, urging European countries to take the lead in their own security in Kiev's. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday the U.S. intends to refocus its military priorities on confronting its main adversary, China. During a visit to Poland on Friday, Hegseth admitted he would love to see more U.S. troops in the country, but still urged European countries to boost defense spending, warning that they shouldn't assume the American forces will stay there forever. Well, I disagree with Hegseth. I don't want to see more troops in the country. I want to see them come home and actually do defense. The Department of Defense is the defense of its homeland. And that would be our borders in our country. But anyway, responding to speculation that Washington could reduce its forces, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said on Friday Europe needs to contribute the lion's share to conventional deterrence and defense in the continent. Yesterday in NATO, we agreed to develop a roadmap to organize the burden shifting from the U.S. to Europe in the years to come, and to avoid at the same time, by orchestrating it, that we run in capability gaps which are critical. Trump has previously warned that under his leadership, the U.S. would not defend NATO countries that failed to meet their financial commitments. He has floated the idea of raising the U.S.-led military bloc's members' defense spending target to 5% of GDP, though no member, including the U.S., currently meets that threshold. Pistorius said earlier this month that Germany will not spend almost half of its federal budget on defense. And I want to comment on that. I think perhaps Trump's just trying to get out of NATO, close NATO, because once we get out, it's basically going to crumble to nothing. Everything has been relying on the U.S. Since NATO's been around for a long time, and when you say NATO, everybody's like, oh, you mean the U.S., because that usually is the case. I wanted to say also, they were really shocked, according to Larry Johnson and Ray McGovern. They were really shocked by what J.D. Vance said and what Pete Hegseth said, but even more when both of them spoke so straightforward and bluntly. They were totally shocked by what was said. Larry Johnson compared what was said by J.D. Vance to, you're engaged to you're a guy, you're engaged to get married, and to your fiance, and she comes home one day, the next day or something, and says, I decided I'm not going to get married. I'm going with the neighbor here. I'm going out with the neighbor here. Okay, bye-bye. His analogies and his examples are always so funny, but really it's really earth-shattering. Even Ray McGovern said that. He said it's earth-shattering, the change that's happening, and for me, I welcome it. I know some people might be upset over that, but NATO wasn't needed after the Soviet Union fell. And so there are a lot of things that sound like they're going to be good, So I listened to Trump's talk. He did a executive order for energy to get the energy sector moving. I think he said 9 months to a year they should have everything up and running. More stuff for liquid gas and oil and all that that will bring down prices, he says. So he says the soonest it'll be is 9 months. And, it just sounded, it was funny because I was listening to that and I was getting excited. Never thought I would be so excited about such a topic. But, it just seems things are changing for the better. God willing. Anyway, that's what I needed to share with you tonight. Thanks for watching. Please follow my channel, like my videos, share my channel, share my videos if you wouldn't mind. Make some comments below my videos anytime you have any thing to say. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Okay, hope you have a great evening. Until next time.